The following is a presentation of 13ABC Action News. Now, your table is ready. Join 13ABC's Jeff Smith with the decision makers of Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. This is the Roundtable.
And a good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Roundtable program, spending part of your Sunday with us here on 13ABC. Tell you what, it has been tough living in Northwest Ohio over the last couple of years, not from a dynamic of talking about the economy or dealing with the weather conditions that we have to deal with. Obviously, we saw a little bit of mix of summer, a little bit of a mix of fall over the last couple of days. What I'm talking about is digesting the news that we deliver to you daily. It's a responsibility that we have here as journalists, but the circumstances that some families, local families, have had to go through to try to endure when it comes to their children have been heartbreaking. Not only from a public perception, but obviously from a family perception. Recently, there's been a real focus on stranger danger, but too often we find the strangers aren't involved in some of the toughest cases to take. The latest heart-wrenching tale is here in Toledo. You're looking at video of it right there, dealing with an 18-month-old child who went missing, but she is no longer with us. We came to the realization over the last couple of days here in Toledo that Elena Steinfurth is dead. An 18-month-old gone way too soon. She was missing for 3 months. A search went on painstakingly. The family members, the neighbors, went to all reaches to try to find this child. And then we find out as late as last week that it was confirmed the remains that were found in East Toledo were that of that child. Today, I felt like there needed to be a conversation had to discuss not only parenting and responsibility, but also child protection, as it were. Dean Sparks, Executive Director of Lucas County Children's Services, sitting next to me right here. Sandy Carsey, she is from the Wood County Children's Services, joining us here on the Roundtable. And also Michael Wiederman joining us, former OHP State Trooper, now the commander at the Police Academy out at Owens Community College. Thank you all for taking this time. I know it's not it's not an easy conversation, rather, Dean, but we continue to see these situations, and we'll talk about some other cases here, but increasingly tough to digest.
Well, in Lucas County, in the past 14, 15 months, we've had at least 13 little ones that were killed. Most of them by their parents or other caretakers, and then of course the little one that was shot at Moody Manor, and apparent gang-related things. Yes. So we've had a number of child fatalities that were a result of child abuse, and each time that we experience that, we as a whole community experience that same trauma. We can't believe it. How can anybody hurt a little one like that? What can we do to get it stopped? Whose fault is it? All those questions continue to arise in our community, and that is an expression of the trauma and the outrage that we feel when these little ones are hurt.
Yeah, I talked about there needing to be a discussion. We're having a discussion here, but is it getting through? I mean, in your dealings when you counsel parents, when you counsel those who are responsible for child protection, why is it not getting through?
Well,
I mean, that's a tough statement because it's all encompassing, but obviously it's a small minority we're talking about, that we're dealing with this.
Well, we've had various successes. The year before that, we had no children that died of child abuse fatality. So you got to wonder why one year we have none, another year we have multiple, and of course we had the three of them died in one incident in the car. From the asphyxiation. But we've got a lot of other things going on in our community too, and all the things add together to create an environment that these things happen. We have poverty, we have domestic violence, we have substance abuse, we have mental illness, we have people who are socially isolated, we have people having multiple babies from multiple partners where there's not much commitment from perhaps one or the other parent to that child. We have families that by and large don't have a lot of extended family that are involved with them and that can counsel them and can kind of take that stress away from them. I've never met anybody who wants to be a bad parent, but there are many people who because of whatever's going on in their lives, that's what ends up happening.
Sandy, as you look at these cases, and I bring forth talking about the conversation, is it parenting responsibility? Is it parenting in general? Or is it an issue of child protection? Or is it all three put together?
I believe that it's all three. You know, we have a lot of young parents that just don't know how to take care of their children. They don't understand that babies do cry and it's frustrating, but you have to deal with it calmly. You know, in Wood County, we had, in the spring of 2012, we had 2 children who were murdered, and we had another very serious shaken baby case. After that time, Wood County partnered with the National Center on Shaken Baby and Wood County Hospital, and we are providing parenting education to new parents. They get a series of pamphlets, and all the nurses at the hospital have been trained on the Shaken Baby protocol. They go over a DVD with the new parents, and then the parents can take it home to show anybody who's going to be watching that child about, you know, how normal it is for babies to cry, and that crying increases between 2 and 4 months, and then it goes down again. So they got to get through that 2-month period, and learn. Just walk away when the baby is frustrating you.
You and I were talking on the phone before we came out here today, discussing, I guess, the penalties that are handed down and the difference that exists and what you have observed over the last couple of years. A couple of the cases you just brought up, there have been no final decisions made as far as what kind of penalty is going to be handed down for those individuals who were to blame. But you see a real gray area when it comes to penalties or verdicts coming down on those who do commit crimes against adults versus those against children. Why is that?
Well, I don't know. I can't answer that.
But it is something that's out there. You notice it. You recognize it.
It's very noticeable to people who work in the child welfare system that people who seriously injure children or murder children get less time. We have a local police officer who is working with the Senate and the in the State House to change some laws, because we had a child death a couple years ago. If the child had survived, the perpetrator would have gotten 8 or 9 years. Child died, he did 3 years. So that's, there's a disparity there that you kill a child and you get 3 years, and then
you maim a child,
you get more.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
There is some confusion in that. From a law enforcement background, Michael, when you look at cases that we're dealing with here, and let me start with what we were just discussing right there. Do you see a real problem with the penalties that are handed down for hurting and or killing a kid?
See, that's something where law enforcement has to stay away from. We're tasked with investigating the missing person, in this case, child.
And that falls on the courts.
Yes, and I'm not trying to throw the courts under anybody's bus here, but it's up to law enforcement to determine the facts of the case. We're going to investigate. We're going to try to find that missing person, but at the same time, we're assembling a criminal case, and a lot of that, it's a nexus. We're gonna try to connect the dots as we find evidence, whether it be physical evidence, testimonial evidence, and it all leads to that nexus that hopefully, if we can resolve it, we not only return the missing person, but we also prosecute somebody that may be criminally liable for the missing act in the first place.
Yeah.
But we have to separate ourselves from the sentencing aspect. That has to be done by the court system. All we can do is present them with the case, the best case possible, assembling all the evidence, getting all the testimonial evidence out there, putting it all together, getting that nexus so that the prosecution can assemble a case, present it to court, and then it's up to the court in a panel of our peers to decide guilt or innocence, and then the sentencing occurs later.
We're showing video to the viewers at home, some of the more high-profile cases that we've dealt with, not only the Elena Steinfurth case, but also the missing Morenci boys, and of course the Nevaeh Buchanan case up in Monroe County. She found buried in cement on the banks of the River Raisin just a few years ago. When you look at these investigations, in our second segment I want to talk more about the roadblocks that exist sometimes, but from a police standpoint, and why is the penalty, the severity of hurting a child not getting through the heads of these individuals?
All I can answer to is the investigative side of this.
Yeah.
We'll assemble the physical evidence. We'll determine and follow through on every lead that's presented to us and that we locate, and assemble that case. And then it's up to the court.
As
and
it goes
prosecutor.
along, let me ask you from an investigative side. We saw this last case stretch out 3 months, which by and large, not a long time when you consider we're going back to 2010 for the missing Morenci boys and trying to make sense of what happened to those 3 individuals. But when you're trying to put a case together, when you look at what Toledo Police, what Lucas County prosecutors had before them, how do you make sure you're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's?
Well, that's a matter of just following every lead that you get, and there's never a bad lead here. If there's a tip or a piece of information, the relevancy of that information or particular tip or evidence is determined. It's investigated. If there's a link, we pursue it, and in some cases tenaciously. We're not going to give up on something until we've determined that it's not related to what we're doing.
Yeah.
But it's, until you get that piece of evidence that helps us absolutely identify and find this missing person. And it's probably going to lead to criminal prosecution as well, but again, it's a process. You assemble that case, and you're only as good as the facts and the information that you're given. You're going to go out and look, you're going to investigate, you're going to take the tips from the public, you're going to take what you have from the initial complaint, you're going to assemble that case, and then you're going to develop leads from that, and you're going to follow up on every single one of them. And wherever those leads go is where law enforcement ends up. And then we take what we've been dealt, analyze it, present it in a case, that criminal nexus, and then we give it to the court system to prosecute.
Stay with us right here on the Roundtable. When we return, we're going to talk a little bit about those roadblocks that come up during the course of an investigation. Also, if it seems like the severity of these situations with kids is increasing, you may be right. We'll be right back right after this.